Some football records seem untouchable, like Brett Favre's 297 straight games played in the NFL,
Sweating like a in church.
or Derek Thomas's 27 sacks in a single season at Alabama in 1988, and of course, anything that Jerry Rice has ever done on an NFL football field.
I hated to play against you. I couldn't sleep at all at night.
Hey, I'm Kevin. This is Touchdown Theory, and bear with me. I'm trying to figure out what I want this recording space to look like. Another record that seems untouchable was Barry Sanders' 1988 season at Oklahoma State, both in yards and in rushing touchdowns, 2,628 rushing yards and 37 touchdowns. The closest thing that we've seen in the 36 years since then was Melvin Gordon's 2014 season, where he had 2,587 rushing yards and 29 touchdowns. But that was in 14 games. Barry Sanders did it in 11 games. Barry Sanders averaged 238.9 yards per game rushing. Just absolute insanity. But this video isn't about Barry Sanders. It's about the guy who just passed Melvin Gordon's 2014 total to move into second all time behind Barry Sanders, Ashton Jeanty, the running back from Boise State.
It's definitely a goal now, just to keep this rolling and, break a record that's been around for 30 plus years.
If somebody told you before the season that a running back was going to account for 2,600 total yards and 30 total touchdowns, you would think that they would be a lock for the Heisman, right? But as we all know, that is not what happened. The trophy was given to Colorado's dynamic two-way player, Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter is ready, and he's giving everybody the Heisman. The favorite right now, getting some production here with an interception.
There have been several seasons where it feels like maybe nobody should win the Heisman. You got people limping to the finish line, people who look like favorites early and end up like fading down the stretch. There have been a few of those seasons. Then you have seasons where it feels like multiple people deserve the Heisman Trophy. And 2024 was one of those years. Both Ashton Jeanty and Travis Hunter had seasons that would win them the trophy most seasons. Before I talk more about what Jeanty did, let's look at Travis Hunter's season. He played almost 1,400 snaps, which is about 400 more than the next highest person. But it's not like he just won the award only because he plays a lot of snaps or because he plays on both sides of the ball. It's because he's really good on both sides of the ball. He had 1,152 receiving yards and 15 offensive touchdowns. And on defense, he intercepted 4 passes and had 11 pass breakups. A truly remarkable season and absolutely deserving of the Heisman Trophy. But Jeanty, the 5'9", 215-pound running back from Jacksonville, Florida, was just as deserving. Jeanty's previous season was nothing to scoff at, 1,900 total yards and 19 touchdowns. But it was the 2024 campaign that got everybody's attention. Jeanty busted out of the gate with 267 yards and 6 touchdowns against Georgia Southern in the opener. And just in case you think all of his yards and touchdowns came against inferior competition, I'm here to tell you that's not the case. The very next game against Oregon, 192 yards and 3 touchdowns. Including the playoff game, Jeanty finished the season with 2,601 rushing yards, 29 touchdowns, plus 138 receiving yards and a touchdown receiving. He averaged over 7 yards a carry, which is better than anybody in college football who had more than 176 carries.
You're averaging over 7 yards a rush after contact. That's double the amount before contact.
His 2,601 yards rushing was almost 1,000 more than the second place guy. The only player with more rushing touchdowns was Army's quarterback Bryson Daly on a team that only had 100 passes all season long. Ashton Jeanty averaged 185 rushing yards per game, which by my calculations, and this could be incorrect, is 8th best all time. His 29 rushing touchdowns is tied for 7th all time for a single season total. And Jeanty had 6 games where he went over 200 yards. Sure, the bulk of his yards was against not so great competition, but I don't care if you're playing suck-ass State. To get over 2,600 yards and 30 touchdowns against anybody is incredibly impressive. And also, he did put up good numbers against good competition. The 2024 Heisman race was the closest since the 2009 season where Mark Ingram won. Travis Hunter beat out Ashton Jeanty by 214 points. That's the 6th closest Heisman race ever. I gotta say, it was kind of refreshing to not have a quarterback in the mix because it feels like it's mostly been a quarterback award, especially over the last 25 years or so. Only 4 non-quarterbacks have won the award since 2000. Is Ashton Jeanty the most deserving player who did not win a Heisman Trophy? Well, you could argue for the aforementioned Derek Thomas in 1988. 27 sacks, 39 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, 4 pass breakups, 1 blocked field goal, and 1 blocked punt. Also, that Melvin Gordon season from 2014. He didn't win the Heisman despite having 2,587 yards. And Ndamukong Suh, the year that Ingram won the Heisman Trophy, and Ndamukong Suh had a dominating season. 85 tackles, 24 of those for a loss, and 12 sacks. Pretty fucking good for an interior D lineman. Randy Moss at Marshall in 1997, 96 receptions, 1,820 yards, 26 receiving touchdowns, 534 return yards. I think all of those guys have solid arguments. And also Peyton Manning, who was in that same 97 class with Randy Moss, both of those guys fell short of Charles Woodson. Quick tangent, the 97 competition for the Heisman Trophy was pretty stout. So I just talked about Charles Woodson, Peyton Manning, and Randy Moss, but also there was Ryan Leaf, Curtis Enis, and Ricky Williams. Barry Sanders, if you're watching this, and I know that you are, your record is still safe for now. Maybe somebody will break it, but it'll probably take their team playing 16 games to do so. Ashton Jeanty, go be great in the NFL. It'll probably be a while before we see anybody else come this close to Barry Sanders' rushing total for a single season.